Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a mental image that, well, it might trigger some childhood memories, but probably not in a business context. I want you to picture Dr. Dolittle.
Okay, the doctor who talks to animals. I'm with you so far.
Specifically, I want you to picture the Pushmi-Pullyu. You remember that one? The llama, or I think it was an antelope in some versions, with no tail. Just two heads at opposite ends of its body.
I do, yeah. Classic impossible creature. Both heads trying to go in opposite directions at the same time.
I'm usually getting absolutely nowhere.
Right.
Exactly. And while it's a great image for a kid's book, the stack of research we're looking at today says that this two-headed biological nightmare is actually the perfect metaphor for leadership transitions.
It really is. We're digging into the managed transition model. And that push-me-pull-you image just works so well because most of us think of a promotion as a single event.
Right. The handshake, the email goes out, you get the new office, done.
Exactly. Done. But that's a very, very dangerous oversimplification.
So what's the reality?
The core insight here is that a transition isn't just a moment. It's it's more like a coordinated exchange of power. It's a process.
Okay.
And just like that two-headed llama, you have two forces, two heads that have to be perfectly in sync. You have the internal push from the leader leaving the role and the external pull from the person taking it.
And if those two heads are fighting each other?
The body tears apart. The source material uses this great term for a company's momentum, the Northbound Train.
I like that.
Yeah. The whole point is to keep that train moving north. When transitions get messy, when that push and pull are out of sync, the train doesn't just slow down, it stops or, can derail completely.
So our mission today is to basically dissect this creature. We need to get a handle on the push, how to manage the pull, and how not to destroy the team while you're at it.
Which is critical because almost everyone has been through a bad one.
Oh, absolutely. So
Well-
let's start with the first head, the push. The research calls this promotion jettison.
Right. Promotion jettison. And this is the part that sounds so simple, but it's actually where most new leaders fail. Immediately.
What is it, technically?
It's the proactive abandonment of your past technical duties.
Which makes perfect sense. I have a new job, so I stopped doing the old job.
Mm.
Simple, but we all know it never ever happens that cleanly. Why? Why is it so hard to just let go?
It all comes down to a psychological idea called identity lag. This was, for me, one of the most fascinating parts of the reading.
Identity lag.
Yeah. When you get promoted, your title changes instantly. Your business card is new. But your brain, your internal operating system, it's still anchored in the very behaviors that got you promoted.
You're sticking with what you know. It's just muscle memory.
Pure muscle memory. I mean, think about it. You were promoted because you were the best at the technical stuff.
Yeah.
You're the best coder, the best accountant. That mastery is your safety net.
It's your competitive moat, as the source called it.
See, exactly.
Yeah.
Your competitive moat. And when you step into a new, really uncertain leadership role, the temptation to just retreat back into that moat it's overwhelming.
Because the new job is ambiguous and scary. The old job is comfortable.
And that's what the source calls the competence trap. You keep doing the old job because it feels good to be the expert. You know the answer's there. It's safe. You get that little dopamine hit, whereas the new leadership problems they're messy.
But by staying in that trap, you're failing at the new role. There was a great analogy in the notes about smartphones that I thought really nailed this.
Oh, the horizontal versus vertical development.
Yes. Can you break that down? Because I think a lot of people mix up learning more stuff with actually developing as a leader.
Sure. So think of your professional growth like a smartphone. Horizontal development is like downloading a new app.
Okay.
You learn a new piece of software, you get faster in a report, you're adding a new skill. You're just doing the same kind of work, but better or faster.
So you're a phone with more features, but you're still the same basic model.
Exactly. Vertical development is totally different. That's like upgrading the entire operating system. It's a fundamental change in how the phone processes everything. When you move from being a doer to a leader, you can't just download a management app. You have to upgrade the whole OS. You have to change how you make meaning of your own value.
You have to go from my value is what I produce to my value is what my team produces.
Precisely. And that is a really disorienting shift. It feels like you're losing your identity.
Yeah.
And if you don't make that OS upgrade, if you don't push those old tasks away, you end up as just a doer with a manager title.
You're running iOS 4 on an iPhone 15.
It just doesn't work.
And the research has this very, very vivid name for what happens when a manager fails to do that. Flyspeck Management.
I love this term. It's so brutal, but it's so accurate. It just paints this perfect picture of the dysfunction.
It sounds disgusting. What's the origin? It's from farming, right?
It is, yeah. It comes
Oh.
from apple farming.
Yeah.
Flyspeck is a specific fungus, Zygophiella gemicensis. It grows on the skin of apples. Now, here's the crucial detail. The fungus is tiny. It looks like a little fly speck. And this is the key. It is purely cosmetic.
So it doesn't actually rot the fruit?
Not at all. Doesn't affect the taste, the texture, nothing. It just looks a little imperfect. But farmers obsess over it because it hurts the marketability of the apple.
So how does that apply to, say, the guy running an engineering team?
A Flyspeck manager is someone who acts like a fungicide sprayer. They are completely obsessed with the cosmetic technical errors, the Flyspecks.
So correcting grammar in an internal memo.
Yes. Or tweaking code that already works perfectly fine, or hovering over the font choices in a slide deck.
They're polishing the skin while totally ignoring the core of the apple.
Exactly. They're so busy spraying for Flyspecks that they completely forget to drive the Northbound Train. They become the bottleneck. The team ends up just sitting around waiting for the boss to check their work before they can move on.
So that has to be so demoralizing for a team.
It destroys the culture. It creates this dynamic of learned helplessness. Why should I bother making it perfect if the boss is just going to redo it anyway?
Right, I'll just get it close enough and let them fix it. You stop taking ownership.
You do. So that's the danger of the push head failing. You get stuck, you become a Flyspeck manager. Now let's look at the other head of this creature.
The pull. The source calls this the rip from my hands dynamic.
Yes, and I know what that sounds like. It sounds incredibly aggressive, right? Rip it from my hands.
It does. It sounds like a mutiny. Like if I'm a manager and my subordinate tries to rip something from me, my first instinct is going to be to hold on tighter.
And that's a totally natural instinct. But in this model, the pull is actually a critical safety mechanism.
A safety net.
Think about it. Because of identity lag, even the best leader is going to hold on to things they shouldn't. We all do it. The pull is when the successor or even the whole organization actively demands that authority.
So it's not insubordination, it's actually accountability.
Exactly. It's the successor saying, Coach, put me in. I'm ready. You don't need to do this anymore. And this is so important for what the research calls nourishment.
Nourishment. That's a strange word for a business context.
It's about psychological needs. We all need to feel competent, right? When a successor is allowed to rip that responsibility away, when they say, I got this, and the leader actually lets go, that person feels nourished.
They feel trusted.
They feel trusted, they feel competent, they feel like they have agency.
And if the leader blocks that rip, if they say, no, I better handle this one.
The successor feels invisible, devalued. It sends a clear signal, I don't trust you. And that breeds resentment faster than anything.
Okay, so we need both. The push, the leader letting go.
Yeah.
And the pull, the successor stepping up. But this is where the monster metaphor gets very real. What happens when they're not synchronized?
That's the danger zone. That's when the push-me-pull-you tears itself apart. The model outlines two specific failure states that pretty much explain every bad transition I've ever seen.
Let's walk through them. What's scenario one?
The first one is only push, no pull.
So the leader just drops the work, but nobody's there to catch it.
Exactly. The leader jettisons all the tasks. I'm a strategist now, but the successor isn't ready. Or maybe they're too passive, or they just haven't been trained.
And the result of that is...
An operational gap.
Right.
Things just fall through the cracks. Clients don't get called back, reports are missed, the train isn't moving north anymore, it's just losing cargo all over the tracks. It's chaos.
Okay, and the second scenario, I'm guessing it's the reverse.
Only pull, no push. And this is your classic power struggle. The successor is ambitious, they're ready, they're trying to rip that authority away, but the leader is clinging to the old role.
The Flyspeck manager holding on to that fungicide sprayer for dear life.
For dear life. No, I need to check that first. See me on that email. And it leads to all this friction, but it also leads to something the source calls pocket vetoes.
I highlighted that term. It sounds like something out of politics.
It basically is. A pocket veto here is really insidious. It's when the team or the successor agrees with the leader in the meeting, sure, boss, we'll do it your way, and then privately they do nothing. Or they just do it their own way.
Because they know the leader is a bottleneck and will just slow them down?
Yes. They just work around the blockage. They think, if I send this to him for approval, it'll die in his inbox for a week. I'm just going to send it. It absolutely destroys trust.
So the goal is equilibrium. The leader has to push at the exact same rate the successor pulls.
Right. And when that happens, you get this shift from a hero journey where the leader has to save the day to a hero maker journey. The leader's job is to empower the team to find the answers.
This all makes sense, but I want to get tactical. How do you actually manage the push-me-pull-you in the real world?
The best framework we found is the stop, start, continue method, but applied specifically to the first 90 days. It gives you a clear roadmap.
Okay, walk us through it. What do the first 30 days look like?
The first 30 days are all about the push preparation. You identify the stop, you list out every technical task you're currently doing that does not fit your new role. You prepare them to be jettisoned.
But you're still doing the continue stuff, building relationships, listening.
Right, you don't stop being a human, you just stop being a technician.
Yeah.
Then, days 31 to 60, this is where the pull starts to engage.
The handoff.
It's an explicit handoff. The successor starts shadowing, then doing. And the leader's job here is to start asking questions instead of giving answers.
So you're teaching the successor how to think, not just what to do.
Exactly. And then days 61 to 90 are all about execution. The leader stops doing the old work entirely. The successor has ripped it away. The transition is complete.
It sounds so clean on paper, but organizations are messy. One of the sources, Model-Netics, made a great point about how hard this is if you're the only one thinking this way.
That's a huge point. Context is everything. If your organization doesn't get the model, your behavior just looks like you're being lazy.
Right. Why did he stop checking the reports? He must be slacking off.
Exactly. And that's why having a shared language is so important.
And Model-Netics is all about creating that shared dictionary for management.
It is. It's a whole system. But the point isn't to memorize a textbook. It's about alignment. When everyone in the organization knows models like roles and goals or define to delegate, they understand the shorthand.
So if I say, I'm exercising promotion jettison on this, my boss knows I'm not shirking work, I'm actually trying to grow.
Exactly. It depersonalizes all the friction. It frames the push and pull as what they are. Standard best practices for growth. It's just part of keeping that northbound train moving.
There's another layer to the shared language I want to touch on, which is organizational intelligence, and specifically this idea of exposure language.
Yes, this is crucial. If you're going to let go of the technical work, you have to replace it with something. You have to start speaking the language of the business.
What does that sound like?
Exposure language? Well, think about your old role. You spoke task language. Did we fix the bug? Did we ship the order? It's binary. It's operational.
Okay.
Exposure language is about risk and profit and strategy.
The source mentioned the 7 logics: economic, strategic, and so on.
Right. So let's use a concrete example. Instead of saying, we fixed the bug in the code, a leader speaking exposure language says, we mitigated a technical risk that could have cost us 10% of our Q3 revenue.
That's a massive shift. One describes the action, the other describes the impact on the business.
It is. It connects what you did to the 7 logics. It shows you understand the economics, the strategy.
Yeah.
When you can talk about the economic exposure of a decision, you prove to everyone that you've made that vertical leap. You're running on the new OS.
You're effectively signaling, I am no longer the apple fungicide sprayer. I am the orchard manager.
That is the perfect way to put it. You are looking at the yield of the whole orchard, not the spots on one apple.
Yeah. This all brings us back to the Northbound Train. Why does all this matter so much? Why should a listener care about a 2-headed llama?
It matters because organizations are either moving or they are dying. That northbound train metaphor isn't just about motion. It's about momentum toward a destiny. And if leadership transitions are botched, the train stops.
And in today's world, a stalled train is a sitting duck.
It really is. A smooth transition is about organizational survival. It's about making sure that the collective intelligence of the group is actually being used, not stifled by a leader who just can't let go of their past.
It's amazing. We started with this impossible creature and ended with the survival of the entire organization. But the connection is so clear. If the heads fight, the body dies.
It's all about that balance. And recognizing that a promotion isn't a reward for what you did, it's a mandate to change what you are about to do.
So let's wrap this up. If you are listening to this and you're in a leadership role or you're about to be, just remember the push-me-pull-you.
Remember that you need 2 forces. You need the courage to push to jettison the things that made you successful, even when it feels unsafe. And you need the humility to allow the pull to let someone rip that authority from you so they can grow.
And if you don't, you're just staring at Flyspecs while the train leaves the station.
That's the reality. And nobody wants to be left on the platform holding a bottle of fungicide.
Before we go, we want to leave you with a challenge, a way to test your own OS level.
Yes, I love this. Open up your calendar right now or when you get back to your desk. Look at all your meetings for the last week and the coming week.
And we're looking for the fly specs.
We are looking for the Flyspeck. Be honest with yourself. How many of those meetings are about you spraying fungicide, fixing minor errors, checking work, being the hero? And how many are about driving the train north strategy, developing your people, talking about risk?
That's a pretty scary audit for some of us. I imagine a lot of calendars are 90% fungicide.
They often are. But here's the kicker. If you vanished tomorrow, would your team know where the train is going? Or would they just be standing around holding the apples, waiting for you to tell them what to clean?
That is the question that defines leadership. And if the answer is they'd be waiting, you've got some pushing to do. As always, thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.